Hello everyone. Thanks for joining us again today for our chapter book story time. We're here at the Caribou Public Library. I'm Miss Erin, and we're going to be continuing to read the second half of chapter 15 in Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. If you'll remember, the last part ended with Jo coming home having had her hair cut very short to make money to help support her ill father. Some of you may not know, but if you have a lot of hair and cut it short so that the length of the hair that is cut is quite substantial, you can actually make money because that hair can be used for wigs and other things. So that's what Jo did as a way to support her family. So we're now talking to Jo, who's talking to her family. She said, "It will do my brains good to have that mop taken off. My head feels deliciously light and cool. The barber said I could soon have a curly crop, which will be boyish, becoming, and easy to keep in order. I'm satisfied, so please take the money and let's have supper." "Tell me about it, Jo. I'm not quite satisfied, but I can't blame you, for I know how willingly you sacrificed your vanity, as you called it, to your love. But, my dear, it was not necessary, and I'm afraid you will regret it one of these days," said Mrs. March. "No, I won't," returned Jo stoutly, feeling much relieved that her prank was not entirely condemned. "What made you do it?" asked Amy, who would as soon have thought of cutting off her head than her pretty hair. "Well, I was wild to do something for father," replied Jo, as they gathered about the table, for healthy young people can eat even in the midst of trouble. "I hate to borrow as much as mother does, and I know Aunt March would croak, she always does, if you ask for a ninepence. Meg gave her all her quarterly salary toward the rent, and I only got some clothes with mine. So I felt wicked. I was bound to have some money if I sold the nose off my face to get it." "You needn't feel wicked, my child. You had no winter things and got the simplest with your own hard earnings," said Mrs. March, with a look that warmed Jo's heart. "I hadn't the least idea of selling my hair at first, but as I went along I kept thinking what I could do, and feeling as if I'd like to dive into some of the rich stores and help myself. In a barber's window I saw tails of hair with the prices marked, and one black tail, longer, but not so thick as mine, was $40. It came to me over all of a sudden that I had one thing to make money out of, and without stopping to think, I walked in, asked if they bought hair, and what they would give for mine." "I don't see how you dared to do it," said Beth, in a tone of awe. Oh, he was a little man who looked as if he merely lived to oil his hair. He rather stared at first, as if he wasn't used to having girls bounce into his shop and ask him to buy their hair. He said he didn't care about mine, it wasn't the fashionable color, and he never paid much for it in the first place. The work put into it made it dear, and so on. It was getting late, and I was afraid that if it wasn't done right away, that I shouldn't have done it at all. And, when I start to do a thing, I hate to give up. So I begged him to take it, told him why I was in such a hurry. It was silly, I dare say, but it changed his mind. For I got rather excited and told the story in my topsy-turvy way, and his wife heard and said so kindly, 'Take it, Thomas, and oblige the young lady. I'll do as much for our Jimmy any day if I had a spire of hair worth selling.'" "Who is Jimmy?" asked Amy, who liked to have things explained as they went along. "Her son," she said, "who is in the army. How friendly such things make strangers feel. Don't they?" She talked away all the time the man clipped and diverted my mind nicely. "Didn't you feel dreadfully when the first cut came?" asked Meg with a shiver. "I took a last look at my hair while the man got his things and said that was the end of it. I never snivel over trifles like that. I will confess, though, I felt queer when I saw the old hair laid out on the table and felt only the short, rough ends on my head. It almost seemed as if I had an arm or a leg off. The woman saw me look at it and picked out a long lock for me to keep. I'll give it to you, Marmee, just to remember past glories by, for a crop is so comfortable, I don't think I shall ever have a mane again." Mrs. March folded the wavy chestnut lock and laid it away in a short gray one with a short gray one in her desk. She only said, "Thank you, dearie," but something in her face made the girls change the subject and talk as cheerfully as they could about Mr. Brooks' kindness, the prospect of a fine day tomorrow, and the happy times that they would have when father came home to be nursed. No one wanted to go to bed when, at 10 o'clock, Mrs. March put by the last finished job and said, "Come, girls." Beth went to the piano and played the father's favorite hymn. All began bravely, but broke down one by one until Beth was left alone, singing with all her heart, for to her music was always a sweet consoler. "Go to bed and don't talk, for we must be up early, and shall need all the sleep we can get. Good night, my darlings," said Mrs. March, as the hymn ended, for no one cared to try another. They kissed her quietly and went to bed as silently as if the dear invalid lay in the next room. Beth and Amy soon fell asleep in spite of the great trouble, but Meg lay awake thinking the most serious thoughts she had ever known in her short life. Jo lay motionless, and her sister fancied that she was asleep until a stifled sob made her exclaim, as she touched a wet cheek, "Oh, Jo, dear, what is it? Are you crying about father?" "No, not now." "What then?" My hair," burst out poor Jo, trying vainly to smother her emotion in the pillow. It did not sound at all comical to Meg, who kissed and caressed the afflicted heroine in the tenderest manner. "I'm not sorry," protested Jo with a choke. "I'd do it again tomorrow if I could. It's only the vain, selfish part of me that goes and cries in this silly way. Don't tell anyone. It's all over now. I thought you were asleep, so I just made a little private moan for my one beauty. How came you to be awake?" "I can't sleep. I'm so anxious," said Meg. "Think about something pleasant, and you'll soon drop off." "I tried it, but felt wider awake than ever." "What did you think of?" "Handsome faces, eyes particularly," answered Meg smilingly, to herself in the dark. "What color do you like best?" "Brown. That is, sometimes. Blue are lovely." Jo laughed, and Meg sharply ordered her not to talk, then amiably promised to make her hair curl, and fell asleep to dream of living in her castle in the air. The clocks were striking midnight, and the rooms were very still, as a figure glided quietly from bed to bed, smoothing a coverlid here, setting a pillow there, and pausing to look long and tenderly at each unconscious face, to kiss each with lips that mutely blessed, and to pray the fervent prayers which only mothers utter. As she lifted the curtain to look out into the dreary night, the moon broke suddenly from behind the clouds and shone upon her like a bright, benignant face, which seemed to whisper in the silence, "Be comforted, dear heart. There is always light behind the clouds." And that is the end of chapter 15. We'll have to continue on next time. Bye for now.